Never content, I'm about to progress. Ride on the highway, watch the sunset. Allergic to a hater, don't need no stress. Go hard or go home, I'm giving no less.
What's good? Like to welcome y'all to another edition of the Major Music Lounge podcast. We're actually going to be joined by Ruqone in just a moment, who's going to stop by and talk to us about his new instrumental project, 1x1 Volume 4. I got a chance to check it out. We're going to dig deep into that. I really liked it. For those of y'all that may not remember, or maybe you're new to the show, Ruqone and I actually worked on At a Different Speed, which was an album we dropped about this time actually last year. So it's actually kind of coincidental that he's going to be back on the show as well. And before we get into the interview, if this is your first time here, I'd like to talk all things music production. Sometimes we also have artists on here to interview as well. So if you are an independent artist, maybe you just released a project. So if you are also an independent artist, I would love to have you on the Major Music Lounge podcast. If you're a producer that either has like placements, maybe you also heavy into releasing content, kind of like Ruqone is and a couple of the other producers that have been here on the podcast. And maybe also have some type of publishing, whether it's in the film and television space, gaming, with a major artist out there. And then to all my app developers and sound designers, like if you come out with sound packs and things along those lines, or maybe you work with one of these companies like Native Instruments or Akai, I would love to have you on the podcast. I don't know how much you can get into some of the work that you do, but would love to hear about maybe some of the experiences that you had leading up to working with some of those companies. You can follow me on Instagram at d._major music. Look for me on Facebook as well, d.major music. You can follow me on TikTok under that same thing. The only place it's not going to be d.major music is Twitter, and that's d.mme. Now, without much further ado, let's go ahead and get into the interview. We are back with another edition of the Major Music Lounge, and I feel like this next guest, no introduction, man. Like this guy is just, one of you would swear we know each other like from being in the same room together. But I mean, we connected over the past year and a half has it been?
More than that.
Yeah, more than that, 2 years. Like, yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
about 2 years. Because you came through on the second season of my podcast. And at that time I released the mixer. And that's when you had Out of Place on there.
Mm-hmm.
And man, just kind of been rolling ever since. What's good, Ruqone? How you been, man?
What's going on with you, D-Dot? I'm great, man. How about yourself?
Oh man, just getting back to the swing of things, man. Just dropped the beat project myself and got some other projects I'm working on behind the scenes, man, but it just kind of feels good to get back in the swing of things, creating content again and just, connecting with people again, man. And pleasure to have you on the show again.
Man, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate you taking the time out to have me on, man. It's an honor.
Oh man, no problem. Every time we connect, man, is a good time, man. So,
Uh-huh.
1x1 Volume 4, man. I feel like, I just released Volume 4 of Major Music Instrumentals myself. So like there's some similarities, I guess you could say, as well. But I got a chance to listen to it just, right before the show and still kind of that same gritty 90s hip hop type of vibe that I got from a lot of your other projects. For those of y'all, I talked a little bit briefly about it, but if you've ever heard At a Different Speed, the album that we came out with about a year ago, actually, it has a very similar feel to some of the tracks on there. So what was your thought process? I just kind of want to ask because like me personally, whenever I release beat albums, not often, but like there may be times I may make a certain like amount of beats. It could be 10, 12, it could be up to 20, but those beats I have in mind for a project. Other times, it could be just, I feel like I wake up one morning, I'm like, I got all these beats on my computer. I think I'm gonna just release another project. What is your thought process behind coming out with your instrumental albums?
Well, what you just said, the latter part of that is how I used to do it. For one by one, volume one and two, I kind of like you said, just had a bunch of beats. I was trying to clear space. It would be something where I would purge, throw away a bunch of garbage, and then I would keep stuff for like, hey, I'm going to send these a rough draft, whatever. And then I would keep stuff for beat projects. For this particular project, this one by one, volume four, man, if you remember, at the start of the year, I put out a beat project called 77, where it kind of had like I went all right, this is let me rewind a little bit. I went to they got this place here like the swap meets called Swaporama. It's right up the street from the crib. Me and the old lady went in there one Saturday, like late last year, and they had a record guy in there. But actually when we saw him, he had like audio equipment and different little things like that. But we were walking all over this place looking for records because they had told me I had never went digging here before, but I've been told that I could go here and get vinyl. So I'm like, yo, man, you got any like records back there somewhere? This dude comes back from under a table with a big old huge tote full of vinyl, man, nothing but records. So I went through there, man. I bought, and they was all for like $1. I had like this many. So I
Wow.
maybe spent like $40, $50, and I made the beats for that 77 album and the beats for this one by one volume four that's coming, all out of that stack of records that I got like right around after Christmas. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So that's kind of what this was. This was a committed project. I wanted to make. I have different sounds on this particular album than that 77, whereas the 77 album had more of a like retro, like 70s type of feel. I wanted to have that. That's why I named it 77. Whereas with this one, it has kind of like a sports theme, and it's kind of like you mentioned 90s. It's kind of like elevated 90s era, you know what I mean? To where it kind of has some of that texture to it, but it still has a very much a modern sound, at least in my eyes. That's how I hope people, hear, where they'll get that kind of retro feel, but they're also going to know that it's not, in that style, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the, background with that. So I made a bunch of beats in like December and January from that same pack of records. And I decided, I'm going to do this with these beats, with this amount of beats. And like some of those beats went to some other stuff I got that's going on right now with some MCs here, but most of them were just made for beat tapes.
Man, ain't nothing like going to a record store. I mean, we used to have a little spot out here. Um, what was it? Half price music and books. Used to be a spot here in Dallas. And
Okay.
I remember not as much now, but I used to pull up a lot more back when I used to use the MPC 2000 Excel, and I used to run my record player into my MPC. But, kind of like you were saying earlier, I used to go out there, man, 20, $30. You get yourself a stack of records, man, and go back to the crib, and I might just put one on, chill, listen to see if something catches my ear at some point. And
Mhm.
I love that feeling of creating, man, especially like um just where you can kind of tune out everything and lock in a lab, man. And
Yeah.
yeah, you never know, even just discovering some new music you may have never came across before. So
Yeah. Yeah. Like a couple of those records I got in there, I mean, they were dope, but I didn't even flip them really. Like, just like you said, for like listening purposes. So,
yeah, man. So like releasing these projects, how do you as a producer, as a creator, how do you get the word out on your projects, like promoting, marketing your projects? I know like myself and I see you every day too, like and Calvin, shout out to Calvin. I
What's up,
always see
Cal?
y'all too, man, like in line kind of with me, same time. I wake up in the morning, I check my Instagram, I see y'all done posted about, whatever you got going on for that week. And like the way I kind of operate, I sometimes I might purchase ads on Instagram and things like that. But then you got other times where I may leverage like the beat making videos or even like the podcast itself, making a small video that I post or that I add to either the beginning or the end of whatever content I'm making. And you get a lot of eyes on that on YouTube, for example. So for me, that's kind of another way that I use to promote what I do. How do you promote what you do?
Well, this year I kind of want to do something different. I want to see an increase. And what I found in my, this early still 2023 is Facebook it's actually been kind of friendly. Like, the joint we did, not the baked asparagus one, but the one before that. I put that. I think he shot a video. I forgot the song, man. He shot a video for one of the joints we did, and I put that on my Facebook, and like the views were like crazy, man. People were loving it just as a reel on Facebook. I didn't even make it to my Instagram page. But I also back to that 77 project. I put a reel on Instagram there, and that's been like the highest view reel I've had. So to answer your question, I've been focusing more on reels. You know what I mean? Just kind of trying to get the word out there. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback through that. I've been, going harder with YouTube. Like, I think last year I really, really slacked on my YouTube, but this year I've been more dedicated to not only putting my remix projects on Bandcamp, but also, when I do the Bandcamp release, I also do like a YouTube release for the same project. And I've been getting, some better feedback than what I was getting. I've noticed I've been picking up some stray subscribers here and there, and I've been getting some nice viewership this year compared to the last year or so.
Yeah, man. The thing I like is Instagram Reels are they're kind of like there's another producer, his name is Impression. But he always also spoke about how Instagram Reels was what helped drive like his engagement, his followers, helped him grow his brand. And like when it started, I could remember even like because he would post just in regular video format over a long period of time. I've been following this cat for a couple of years, but
Mm.
um he literally, and I could kind of see because he built his following not only from Reels, but he's also like an iPad producer that he makes a lot of his beats in a Koala sampler. I don't know if you heard of Koala
Okay.
app,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he was one of the first ones to kind of take off with the Koala app, and that that tied into releasing a lot of reels, which helped him boost or helped him grow his network. So, I can
Okay.
totally get that. And even like now, like there may be something that I posted weeks ago and I'll get a notification saying, "Oh, you have a reel that just hit 50 views, or you have a reel that just hit 100 views." And it just kind of like it is amazing to me how you can post something now and weeks later you're still seeing the results of
Yeah.
it going on and on. So even to me, like, and that's what I think a lot of people sleep on is there's a lot of guys that they make great music. They're talented individuals, but they don't utilize the simple tools that are free and at their disposal daily, which I mean like posting to Instagram, but also learning things about like the algorithm, what works, what doesn't work. And I think a lot of artists and producers miss the boat on that. So, props to you on that.
I think a lot of producers, well, at least the ones I know, and just talking to people that deal with other producers, I think for the most part, not all, but for the most part, we're just so introverted. We are locked in on focus on the next great beat. You know what I'm saying? That we haven't developed those other skills that would help us promote ourselves. You know, and I think honestly, I kind of suffer from that myself because, you know, I look like people I follow on Instagram and they'll have like in their story, they'll have like about 30 or 40 different little stories in there. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I only post one or two a day. If I post more than that, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, I'm kind of being a glory hound or I'm doing too much or something. So I kind of feel like I need to do more of like what they're doing, even though a lot of the stuff will be nonsense. And I think that's what a lot of my personal issue is. Like a lot of the stuff, they got all these stories in their story, but a lot of it is BS. You know what I mean? So I feel like I probably could do more stories, but just make it to where it's different, but saying the same thing while I'm promoting a project or upcoming project, but in different ways instead of just being repetitive with it. That's the next move I'm going to make with promotion. You know what I'm saying? Where it's going to be saying the same thing, but just, you know, different ways of saying the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like one of the changes that I liked to stories, and it's been around, for a minute now, but um of course on a regular post, even a reel to a degree, you can't post a link. Like you can't add a link to it.
Yeah.
And I think with stories, the fact that now you can add links to it, and of course there are other tools that lie in stories that can make it more interactive. Like, maybe a countdown to your next project or if you, I don't know, let's say you drop two beats and maybe you want an opinion on it, you have people vote on it, things like that. I'm just kind of thinking out
Yeah.
the box. But
Yeah.
that's one of the things I like about stories and kind of also to revisit, speaking on like Facebook too. I noticed I agree with you there too when you were talking earlier about just noticing some growth on Facebook, for one, about like my artist page on Facebook, um, years ago I would post things and it wouldn't have much interaction. Now I can post something daily. People will like, people will share it, and even more so than on my personal page. And that's mind blowing to me that one of the things Meta is focusing more on creators now. So I mean,
Yeah.
these are just simple things that I think a lot of creators aren't using that are, getting free and at their disposal. So,
Yeah. I agree. I
yeah,
agree.
man. You're still using MP you're using an MPC, and I know you just got Machine Micro.
I sold my MP, man. I
You,
sold that because I had to make some room. I got this fancy Ableton Push 2 over here.
okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's my main weapon of choice because, you know, I've been going so hard with Ableton software, you know, the standard 11 live. Man, I was doing so much crazy stuff with that. I'm like, man, I kind of need the hardware to go with this. So I went and got that. But then, you know, like me and the old lady, we're going to be doing some traveling here in the next couple of weeks and a lot over the next couple of months. So that's what made me get this micro. I got me a nice little carrying case for it. So while we're out, you know, in my little downtime, I plan on making a lot of beats on the road with that. I've been doing stuff here at home with it, and I love it. I mean, I had the MK3 a few years back, got rid of that, you know, to make some room for some other stuff. But I'm loving this micro, man. It's a handy piece. Now, like I said, it's gonna be good for traveling too. So, you know,
Yeah, man. A lot of people used to always ask, Doc, why you go with the Micro, man? Why you never got, the Studio or the MK2 or the MK3? And, same thing you said, portability, being able to just throw it in my bag and travel. Yeah, and now since then I've also gotten to iPad, so I take it kind of really all depends. There's certain places I go where I know like the producer or whoever I'm going to work with, they might work with machine. But then there are
mm-hmm.
other times when, like when we went to Vegas last year to watch the Raiders, all I did was took my iPad, and I made beats in Beatmaker 3 while we were there. And I do understand though, like, portability. You get to throw it in the bag and go and create anywhere. But I take
Hmm.
my Machine Micro, even like maybe when I take it to the job and I make beats on my break, that is perfect for that type of setting because I don't have a lot of space when I go there. So, uh, yeah, man. And then Ableton Push. Now I haven't got much into Ableton, but I hear some great things about it. I got another good friend of mine. Shout out to Super Mario. He's a producer out of Houston, but he's been swearing by Ableton for years, man. And now I see you got into Ableton, so that might be on my wish list for the future, just to take a look at it, man. I kind of took a step back from buying a lot of gear. Uh, you know, kind of told wifey I was gonna pull back on that for a minute. So I did that. But yeah, man, how you liking that Ableton Push?
I love it, man. I love it. It works really well with my keyboard, my complete control 49 key keyboard. I mean, they just work hand in hand. And then, like I said, with that software, obviously, it's made for that. So it's perfect, man. I like to learn things. So I got Serato Studio for the stems feature. So I love that. And I like machine software. It's very dope. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
I, I finally learned Fruity Loops. I know I've done it backwards than most people because most people normally do Fruity Loops first, right? And then they move on to all this other stuff we're talking about now. But I just now, like a couple of weeks ago, made my first ever beat in Fruity Loops. So watching YouTube tutorials, you know what I'm saying, that taught me how to do that. But I'm all about learning. So, I'm always going to try to learn to do stuff, but when something grabs me is when I'm going to, make that purchase. I want to learn Logic, you know what I mean? So I got the
yeah,
MacBook, so I figure I might as well, see what that's about.
yeah.
But, I'm just all about learning, but I have my weapons that I'm going to stay with. And as long as Ableton is making stuff, man, they're going to have a customer in me. I was like, all my TVs in my house are all Samsung. I'm a brand loyal person, so Ableton has got me right now.
Man, and kind of going along the lines of what you said there, it's actually been a topic past couple of guests and I have spoken on. I kind of feel like you've described in a way in terms of like you see me do work on machine, MPC, iPad, different apps on the iPad, and I like to while I'm making beats on different applications, still at the end of the day, I'm a machine guy first before any of those. But at the same time, like I never limit myself just to learning like one particular app. I think that you have to show some versatility in terms of being a producer and a creator. But at the same time, I always stress to younger up and coming producers, don't feel like you gotta get everything out there. Like, it's almost like a buffet, for example. Like they have all these different applications and you have these young producers, they go online on YouTube and they might see somebody banging out on the MPC, then banging out on Ableton Push, and then making beats in FL Studio, and they're all over the place in terms of
Hmm.
just wanting gear because they see everybody else do it. So I think there's a fine balance between being versatile, knowing all these different programs and apps versus if you're a newer producer focusing on one in particular. What's your thoughts
I
behind
agree.
that?
I agree. Yeah, you should have something that you is your go-to. Like I said, but I also feel like you should be willing to learn. Don't negate what you are good with and then just say, "Oh, I'm not going to learn how to do anything else because I'm good with this," because you're missing like the possibilities. I could be like I said, I've been able to do like some amazing remixes this calendar year, just learning, what I'm saying, Serato Studio and having that stems feature, like I said, because I may not even have to make a beat in there. I could just put like a sample in there and extract whatever pieces I need, then take that right to Ableton and then do my thing there. But without having that knowledge of Serato Studio and stems and all that, you wouldn't be able to do that. You're gonna have to just chop the sample the way you would do it without being able to extract a certain part. So You know what I'm saying? It's always good to have the knowledge of things.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's good to have the knowledge, and also I feel like different apps, different programs allow me to create differently. So like um Beatmaker, there's things I like about Beatmaker that maybe that aren't in Machine. There are things about the MPC that I may not have in Beatmaker 3 and so on and so forth. So that's another reason I like to create as well, man. Um what do you have on deck? I know you got the project coming out Friday, One by One Volume 4. But as far as Rook One, what else do you have? I know you also just did shout out to Ezekiel the Prophet.
Yo.
I know y'all just
hmm
did something as well. But what plans do you have for the rest of 2023?
Well, actually, the Prophet and we got another MC with us, Tales the Prince, who was on that single Boondock Saints that just dropped. We're working on an album, but we're dropping a couple singles first. You got that one, like I said, the Boondock Saints single. Then we got another one. This is like, damn, the only person missing on this one really is you, because we got Tales and we got the Prophet featuring Rough Draft on the hook. This one is called "You Know How We Roll." That's going to be coming out probably the end of April. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be the next single on their album. They're doing a joint album produced by me. So, we're putting a couple singles out to kind of get that buzz going. I'm thinking there's talk of a music video for this next single. So, we'll see how that goes. But definitely the song is dropping at the end of this month. And Rough, this project he and I have been sitting on forever. Um, I might have talked about it on one of my appearances on the show, but it's a concept album where he's rapping from the perspective of a butthole, pretty much a really bad, terrible person, like mooching off his parents out here, nickel dime bag selling in the street, not really doing nothing with himself. You know what I'm saying? So he's rapping from like a scumbag, pretty much perspective. You know what I'm saying? And that's the concept behind the album. So I produced all the tracks. That's about to come out, and one of the singles from that was dropped earlier this year called Black Widow. You know what I'm saying? If you go back, people out there listen to that song, it's depending on what you think a scumbag is. You listen to that song, you probably think he's a cool cat, but some people will see it another way. So, but we got that album. That's going to be a Bandcamp one because the way we did it, which makes it unique. Like I said, it's a concept album, but he sprinkled in like verses from known rappers, but it's more so it kind of has like a mixtape kind of thing going with it to go with his regular verses that he rapped specifically for those beats. And we mixed them, like I said, with these known like verses we got from other songs to kind of piece it together and make it make sense. So you might hear it's like, oh, we got Jadakiss on here, but it's not an actual Jadakiss verse, you know what I mean? So that's what makes it a concept album. But unfortunately, well, depending on how the feedback we get on it, I'm saying unfortunately for now, it's only going to be on Bandcamp because of those things I just mentioned. But hey, what I'm saying, it could pop from there, so you never know. So that's kind of what's going on right now. So this is going to be my last beat tape for the year. Like I said, I had both of them on deck, and I wanted to put them out because I thought they were both dope. So they're both coming out. Got the Ezekiel the Prophet, and also being the Prophet, we have an EP. We had that EP we put out last year, hardcore grimy shit. So we've been working on those songs. We've been working on the songs for the project with him. It tells the Prince, and Rough. We just wrapped that up. You know what I'm saying? Because we needed an intro for that, and we finally got that done. And so now that project is ready to go. It's just a matter of when we're going to put it out. But most of the stuff is going to be summertime. Late spring, summertime releases.
All right, man. Yeah, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
looking for it all. And we definitely, gotta get back to something soon, man.
Oh man, I already got a couple beats lined up for you right now. I got a folder just waiting for you to say when. Ready to pull that email trigger, like, pow, here you go, bro.
Man. Yeah, man. That was and I always wanted to tell you this, man, but it's just been a great pleasure working with you as an individual because I've done collab projects with a lot of other people. Experience hasn't been so good, and just the simple fact that we stayed communicating with each other throughout the whole process uh of at a different speed. And anytime you want it to work from there, I'm definitely open to it, man. So and I know, like you said, you got a folder ready to go, man, and I will be hitting you up when it's time, man. So yeah, definitely.
And I appreciate that, man. One thing that makes it cool about working with a person like you, a person that makes beats and is really, really effing good at making beats, like your stuff is dope. So for you to even consider even listening to my stuff and then deciding to rap on it, it really, I mean, not, this is no bullshit. It's really an honor because, like I said, you make beats and you produce for people. So you're going to know what's dope. You know what I'm saying? It's different when it's just somebody just raps that doesn't really know the intricacies of putting, beats together and flipping samples and, all the different things that goes with production. You know what I'm saying? It's a little easier to play beats for them to get them to pick beats from you. But when you're doing that, at least I feel the stuff that I sent you, I really feel like, man, I don't know if you're gonna like it because, like I said, you make beats. So, I got to make sure I come with my A game when it comes to dealing with you. Not that I don't come with it for anybody else, but just different. Like Ruff makes beats. So, I got to make sure I come with it with him. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, man. And that's also, I appreciate that too, because I mean, yeah, you're absolutely correct, man. Because like, I don't, before like you reached out to me, I could probably say in all the years I rap, I probably maybe less than five different producers that I work with. Like, I don't work with many people. There's guys that would reach out to me on Instagram, and I'm like, nah, I'm kind of doing my own thing. And just something about when I heard your song for the first time, that's what kind of made me locked in, out of place. Gave that some time to record. And I saw also, like, when we did that first joint, a lot of people liked it. So
Yeah.
that's when, after that you reached out about doing a project, and then, rest is history from there, man. So yeah,
Yeah.
man, we're gonna definitely do this again.
No doubt. No doubt.
Man, what kind of shout outs do you have?
Well, shout out, first of all, and shout out again the new project, One by One. It will be on Bandcamp April 7th, Friday. You know what I'm saying? Depending on when this is going to run, it'll be streaming everywhere on my birthday, April 17th. It'll be on all streaming services. That's a Monday. So you'll be able to, start your week with that if, you can't make your way to Bandcamp. But please, 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 please make your way to Bandcamp and, give it a listen and purchase that record. You know what I'm saying? Because if you go back and listen to those first three and then listen to this one, you'll see the growth in my sound. You know what I mean? So I encourage you to do that, and then that'll probably make it easier for you to buy this One by One Volume 4. But yeah, shouts out to you for having me on, first of all. Shouts out to Ruff, you know what I'm saying? Shouts out to my man, The Prophet Tales, you know what I'm saying? Shouts out to the wife if she decides to watch this, you know what I'm saying, while she's at work one day, you know what I'm saying? Shouts out to her, you know. Shouts out to everybody that loves hip hop, man. And you know what I'm saying? In particular, I want to say because, it's not just like one sound when it comes to hip hop. So even if you are really rocking with hip hop that like purists may not enjoy, shout out to you because you found it somehow and you'll be able to grow into more of a purist and more an appreciator of different styles just by getting your foot into the hip hop door. So shout out to you, if you listen to that commercial stuff, because you'll find people like us one day, you know what I'm saying, from that commercial avenue. And once you come underground, you may not never want to leave, So shout out to everybody out there right now.
And where can our listeners follow you at online?
Instagram, Real Ruqone, RealRuqone. Also on TikTok and Twitter, it's Ruqone Beats, Ruqone Beats, Beats. So and on Facebook, you can find me at Farouk Basir, Faruq BASIR. So, come on, hang out with the old folks on Facebook, you know what I'm saying, if you want to see what we're doing there. And yeah, that's how you found me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, it's definitely a pleasure as usual to have you on, man. So I
Likewise.
wanted to let you know that, man.
Man, appreciate you, bro. Same here, man. I feel the same way. Looking forward to talking to you next time, man.
Oh man, no problem at all. You can follow me on Instagram at d._major music. Same thing on uh TikTok. And then I do have my Facebook page, d.major music. I have a personal page too, but that's kind of limited to, people I know closely. So I ain't gonna give that that out on here. But you can follow me on Twitter at d.mme. And if you like this podcast, I mean, we do this pretty much every week. Like to talk about music production, hip hop, everything in between with a lot of the guests on the show. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button. You catch new episodes of the Major Music Lounge, not just on YouTube, but if you're on the go, you can listen on your favorite podcast platform. We're on there too. So a lot of people think it's just YouTube, but nah, go ahead, listen to it on the go as well. Until next time, it's D. It's Ruqone, and we are out.
Major Music.